All right, so today we're going to discuss how Clemson can get into the ACC championship game. I know a lot of people have mentioned this, wondering what can happen, and I'm seeing a lot of misinformation on the internet. So I hope that this video will help clear things up for you. Before we get into the video, make sure you like this video and you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us over on Twitter at the Morgan T Show. All right, so how can Clemson get into the ACC championship game? It's kind of crazy to think, as poorly as they have played on offense, that they are still in a position where there is a chance that they can make it into the ACC championship game. There's even still a chance where they could possibly win 10 games at the end of this season. I know it doesn't look as likely as in years past, but there is still that chance. And so a lot of people have been talking about how will they get to the ACC championship game, because that is really what's next up for them, or the next biggest possibility as far as the postseason goes. Well, it's always the next game is the most important for Dabo Swinney and company, and I think that can't be any more true than this weekend against Wake Forest. Number 12 Wake Forest comes to Clemson. First positive thing there, Wake Forest is coming to Clemson. Now, can Clemson beat a team that is the number one team in offensive touchdowns in the nation? When they are only scoring about 2 touchdowns, Wake Forest is scoring about 5 touchdowns a game. It will be difficult. It's not going to be something easy, but Wake Forest has never met a defense like this season. So this will be one of the best defenses that they face, and the defense gets better as time goes on. Clemson is one of the best second half defenses in the nation, along with Iowa and Georgia. So when you're talking about defenses, the Tigers are definitely up there. Can they put a cap on can they put a cap on Sam Hartman and stop him from having that 5-6 touchdown game? Only time will tell. We'll have to see when the game gets played. That's why they play the games. I will be there 12 p.m. I hope you are there as well, too, if you're in the area. All right, so let's get into the meat of the question here. How can Clemson clinch the ACC? Well, let's start with the team that is currently number one. Now, Wake Forest has a loss, and they do have a loss against North Carolina. However, a few years ago, they decided to make that game a non-conference game. When the conference was expanded, they did not make Wake Forest versus North Carolina a consistent rivalry for them, because they're in 2 different divisions. And this could be an argument against why you would even against divisions at all. But because they're in different divisions, they weren't going to play each other every year, but they wanted to try to play each other more often than not. And in that case, what they've decided to do is in 2019 and in 2021, play a non-conference game. So it is a conference game. It was a conference game, but it counted as a non-conference game. So it did not hurt them in their conference standings. That's what's most important. It hurt them in their overall record. Yes, they're 8-1, but it did not hurt them in their conference standing. So when you look at Wake Forest, you'll see that they play Clemson at 12 p.m., and then they have to also travel to Boston College. Now, the easiest way for Wake Forest to win the ACC is to win one of those 2 games. Now, their 2 road games is always hard to win a road conference matchup, but they can do it if they just win one. So they just have to win one. So they are the most in control of their season by far. So Wake Forest either beats Clemson or Boston College, and they're in. Clemson needs to beat Wake Forest, and they need to have Wake Forest lose to Boston College, because Wake Forest just needs to win one. All right, so think about that again. Wake Forest needs to win either Clemson or Boston College. If they lose to Clemson, they still could win Boston College and get to the ACC championship game. Therefore, Clemson needs Wake Forest to lose both the game against Clemson this weekend, and then also the game at Boston College next weekend. So keep that in mind. There needs to be 2 losses for Wake, because currently they don't have any conference losses. The only one loss was North Carolina, which, again, was not a conference game on paper. All right, so Clemson needs Wake Forest to lose 2 games, the last 2 games of the season. Clemson also needs North Carolina State to lose a game, because if Clemson ends up winning their last ACC game, they will have 2 ACC losses. Their 2 ACC losses that counted as ACC losses would be North Carolina State and Pittsburgh. Now, the key there being North Carolina State. So if North Carolina State has 2 losses and Clemson has 2 conference losses, then North Carolina State beat them head-to-head, and they would go ahead of Clemson in that scenario. All right, so Clemson also needs North Carolina State to lose 1 more game. Now, just like Wake Forest has to travel to 2 games, North Carolina State on the opposite end gets 2 home games. First against Syracuse, who absolutely couldn't do anything against Louisville. Malik Cunningham just destroyed them, was completely routed by the Cardinals. Not looking very confident that Syracuse can then travel to Raleigh and beat the Wolfpack. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, they play the games, right? So they do have a really good running quarterback and a good running back, and so anything can happen. That's why they play the games. This is the ACC. But on the flip side, if they win against Syracuse, then Clemson needs them to lose their next game, which is going to be a little bit more difficult for them. A lot more difficult, I think. It's going to be against the North Carolina Tar Heels, a big rivalry game there. Don't know what time it's going to be. North Carolina is coming off an overtime loss to Pittsburgh, but the thing about North Carolina is you never really know what you're going to get, but if they can protect Sam Howell, and if Sam Howell can start running the ball on offense, they are 1 or 2 big plays away from tearing the game open. When you saw that game against Pittsburgh, they do what they always do. They've done this for like 3 years in a row, especially under Mac Brown. They give up a ton of points in the first quarter, and they have to struggle to come back and win. If North Carolina, the Tar Heels, can avoid getting in a big hole out of the first quarter, then, I'm saying a big hole, even 17 points is difficult sometimes. I'm saying if North Carolina can avoid being down by 2 touchdowns or more, and then work to protect Sam Howell and score big on big plays to Downs and other receivers out there, I think that the Tar Heels definitely have a chance of beating NC State. Now, again, it is going to be at home. It's going to be a rivalry game for the Wolfpack, so who knows what will happen in that game. In looking back at the situation for Clemson, they're not in control of their destiny in the ACC, which is something as a Tiger fan probably not used to and haven't been used to in a long time, probably having some withdrawals from the winning that you're so used to. And I say, give the team some time, trust in the coaching staff. They will make the adjustments and the changes needed. The 2021 team is what it is in a lot of cases. But as far as the situation goes, they're not as bad off as NC State, because NC State needs to win out and also needs Wake Forest to lose out. Clemson needs Wake Forest to lose out and needs NC State to lose 1 game. And that's it. I hope you have a little bit more understanding of what is going on and what the Tigers can do to get to the ACC championship game. Hey, let me know in the comments what you think about Clemson's chances to get to the ACC championship game. Is it over? Should they restart and get ready for next year? Or is there still a chance, and you think there's a really good chance that they could make it to the ACC championship game? I, as a Tiger fan, am always going to hold hope and go watch the game and be at the game against Wake Forest. I hope you are as well if you can. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.